CEO, do we have all staff present that we need?
Oh, there we go. Through you, Mr. Chair, we are good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. I show 1 o'clock on my phone, so we are going to proceed. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Deputy Mayor Tom Hutchison, the Chair of the Adjustment meeting. Item number 1, we're going to call the meeting to order. Again, I've called it at 1, probably 1:01 by now. This is the September the 19th, 2022 Committee of Adjustment meeting, and we do have a quorum as indicated by the members' login. For this meeting, we're using both audio and video. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the West Grey website at www.westgrey.com. The technology for this meeting is being managed by the West Grey staff. Please refrain from clicking buttons throughout the meeting unless prompted. Before we continue, I'm asking communications coordinator, Ms. Ferguson, to provide an overview of some of the other key points for the meeting. Ms. Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair Hutchinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected, you can dial in at 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID for this meeting, which is 871-5038-0700. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is being hosted on Zoom meeting software, but is also being live streamed on YouTube. Public participation and comments are not monitored on YouTube and must be done through the Zoom meeting software. Both members of staff and council have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software. Members of council and staff will be raising their hands physically on camera to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance throughout the duration of the meeting, please send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you. Item number 2 is the purpose of the meeting, and Ms. Mulligan, could you please provide your comments?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this Committee of Adjustment meeting is to allow the presentation of applications for minor variances and applications for consents to sever, and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments with regard to the applications. A public registry for each application is available by email at sferguson@westgrey.com. And if any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision on one of the applications, they are to provide their name and mailing address by email or via the meeting chat function for the corresponding registry. This will also entitle one to be advised of a possible Ontario Land Tribunal hearing in the event the decision on the application is appealed.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of the committee, do you have anything to declare at this time? And if not, if one should arise during the meeting, obviously you can declare at that time. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to item number 4 is approval of minutes. As you can see in the agenda, there was no minutes posted, so we will move beyond that one and get right into item number 5. And I'm sure staff, if there's some minutes from the last meeting, they will catch up to us on the next meeting, which is, I believe, October 3rd. Item number 5 is minor variance application number A14-2022, and that's 199-381 Side Road 30, Unit 4, Township of Bentic. 5.1 is application number A14-2022 Doherty Edward. And before I ask Planner Spencer to read her recommendation for 5.2, I'd like the committee to know that we can deal with the recommendation for all of the recommendations for the planner's reports, including this one, 6.2, 7.2, 8.2, 9.2, and 10.2. We can capture the recommendation for that down in the at the direction part where we're going to give direction. So we're not going to be calling for a mover seconder for receiving the report. We can deal with it at the end. And I have talked to Deputy Clerk on this matter, and that is acceptable how we're going to handle it. That's just going to streamline the meeting a little bit more. So, that being said, is there any questions on that first off? Okay, seeing none. We're going to go to 5.2, and that is Planner Spencer's report. And you read your report for minor variance A14-2022, including any written comments you may have received under 5.3. And I see nothing's posted, but there's ongoing correspondence right up to today's meeting. Planner Spencer.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So the recommendation is that Committee of Adjustment receive the report from Planner Spencer regarding file A14-2022, 1993934 Ontario Inc., with the agent being Mr. Doherty. Wherein the planner recommends approval of application A14-2022, as the application is considered to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, is considered to be minor in nature, and is considered a desirable use of the land and buildings. The property is municipally identified as 199381 Side Road 30, specifically Unit 4, and legally defined as Part Lot 61, Concession 1 NTR, Part Lot 61, Registered Plan 17R1496, Parts 1 and 2 in the geographic township of Bentic. The purpose of this application is to vary the provisions of section 16.2.7 to permit a total floor area of 29 square meters, whereas 8 square meters is permitted for an accessory structure, the effect of which will permit the construction of an accessory structure in MH mobile home park zone. The accessory structure will be in the form of a detached garage for personal use. Planning staff, as previously stated, are recommending approval of this application. Comments have been received from the County of Grey Planning and Development Department, in addition to conservation comments from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, both of which have no objection to the application at hand. I'm happy to clarify further as committee sees fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. And that'll take us to 5.4 verbal comments. 5.4.1, this is the committee comments. Many members, this is your opportunity to ask any questions, or do you have any comments regarding the application before us? And I will look for raised hands, please. And I do see Member Hutchinson, and that will be followed by Member Townsend. Member Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just a point of clarification under item test number 4. It just mentions about the third paragraph down, second paragraph down. That further desire of this type of accessory structure appears within the modular home park, it would not be considered through the minor variance process. So I'm just curious, does that mean there won't be any more options to build driving sheds or garages, or that it has to go through a different process?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair. So that comment has been made in essence that rather than dealing through each one individually through a minor variance process, I have suggested to the property owner that it's more appropriate that there is an overall zoning change considered to permit these types of structures rather than dealing with it through every case-by-case basis. So in essence, it's not appropriate to deal with a minor variance for every lot that is, or unit, I should say, within that mobile home park, but consideration will be given going forward to permit a blanket zoning bylaw to permit this, so it doesn't have to come back to committee, and would be dealt with on an overall basis for the park, essentially. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Member Hutchinson.
No, that's good.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. Member Townsend, you're up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed in the paragraph below the one that Member Hutchinson was talking about, it talks about that it can't be used for profit and nor for human habitation. I'm assuming that will also be in the bylaw. Could you confirm that, please, Planner Spencer?
Planner Spencer.
Yes, and thank you through you, Mr. Chair. So that is part of the zoning bylaw. The minor variance is only dealing with the floor area specifically. It does not take away those restrictions with respect to using it for profit or gain or for the purposes of human habitation. Those continue to not be permitted at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. That was my only question.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the committee members or comments before we turn this part of the application or process to the public? Seeing none, we're going to move on to 5.4.2, and this is the public comments. Ms. Ferguson, could you please provide comments on how the public can participate? Thank you.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. After speaking, or if you have raised your hand in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat to me, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. You can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair Hutchinson, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just having a quick glance at the screen here. I see no raised hands as well. Okay. Seeing none, then we are going to move on to 5.5, and that's decision by the committee. And again, if you're so opposed, you can put in to receive Planner Spencer's report and tie it right into this, and we'll do that through the whole process today. So I would be looking for a committee member to, oh, there we are, Member Robinson, followed by Member Hutchinson. Member Robinson, go ahead, please.
So with respect to my motion, I would put forward that the Committee of Adjustment receives the report from Planner Spencer, A14.2022, Doherty Edward, in brackets 1993934 Ontario Inc., end of bracket. And I would ask that it would encompass the recommendation from the first page, if that is required. And further, that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application A14.2022 for the reasons set out in the planner's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Robinson. And I had showed your hand up, Member Hutchinson, as a seconder for that. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody need that reread by Ms. Mulligan, or are we good with the recommendation before us? And that would be the committee members. And we're all good. Everybody's in favor of that. Okay, thank you. We see a thumbs up there. So then we will call it a vote. All members in favor of this motion, you can just show your hand. I see all members are in favor. There is none opposed. This motion is carried. And that'll take us to 5.6. Planner Spencer, what would be the next steps, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So upon decision of the committee, notification will be provided from the planning department of the decision of the committee, at which point there will be a 20-day appeal period that follows. Notification will be provided to the landowner and their agent. In the event that there is no appeals received, they will be advised that they can proceed with their building permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Okay, so that checks off item number 1. Number 2 on today's for applications is number 6, item 6, minor variance application A15 2022 6840, Highway 89, Township of Normanby. 6.1, application number A15 2022 Sandbrook Jesse. And again, we're going to go to 6.2, Planner Spencer's report. If you could please read your report for minor variance A15 2022. And with that, if you could include any of your comments or the written comments received under 6.3, which I show as 6.3.1 Grey County, 6.3.2 Saugeen Valley Conservation, and any other correspondence you may have received that's not posted on the agenda. Planner Spencer, please.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is that Committee of Adjustment receive the report from Planner Spencer for file A15 2022 Sandbrook, wherein the planner recommends approval of application A15 2022 as the application is considered to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, maintain that it's minor in nature and is considered to be a desirable use of the land and buildings. The subject lands are municipally identified as 6840 Highway 89, northwest of the town of Mount Forest. The property is legally identified as Part Lot 75, Concession A, in the geographic township of Normanby. The purpose of this application is to vary the provisions of Section 6.1.42 to permit a total floor area of 112 square meters, whereas 92.9 square meters is permitted within the bylaw, the effect of which will permit the construction of an accessory structure on the subject lands. Comments have been provided from the County of Grey Planning and Development Department, who expressed no concern with the application, in addition to comments from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, who also do not have concerns with the application. I'm happy to clarify further as committee requires. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. So that moves us to 6.4, verbal comments. Again, there's two parts to this portion of the meeting. First one is for committee members, and that would be followed up by public members. So 6.4.1 is committee members. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions at this time? Maybe just raise your hand if you do. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move to 6.4.2 in public comments. And again, I'm going to ask Ms. Ferguson to explain to the public how they can participate in this part of the meeting. Ms. Ferguson.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. After speaking, or if you have raised your hand in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. Or you can raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair Hutchinson, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you. And I just having a look at my screen as well. I see no hands raised. So we're going to move on then to 6.5. And this is decision by the committee. And again, if you want to bundle in the receiving the report, this is the time to do so. Anyways, I will be looking for a member, committee member. I do see member Herger. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I would move that the Committee of Adjustment receives the report from Planner Spencer A15-2022 Sandbrook Jesse, and the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the minor variance application A15-2022.
Thank you, Member Herger. Could I get a seconder, please? Member Hutchison, I see your hand up to be seconding that. Does anybody need the motion read back? Oh, Member Hutchison, do you have a question, or you just thumbs up?
No.
Thank you. Okay, I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. Does anybody need the that read back by Planner Spencer and Ms. Mulligan? Are we all good? And I do not see Member Townsend now. But we still have quorum, so we can complete this one. All right, so we'll call the vote. All those members in favor, you just raise your hand. I see 4 members are in favor, and again, I acknowledge that Member Townsend is not on my screen, so maybe he's having some technical difficulties, but that motion is carried. Thank you. And item 6.6 would be Planner Spencer. What are the next steps, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The next steps for the applicant will be advised that the notice of decision for approval of the application has been granted. There will be notice of that decision provided and the 20-day appeal period that will follow. Provided there are no appeals to the decision, the applicant will be advised they can pursue their building permit. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask the staff members if they can confirm whether Member Townsend is still connected, or if we've lost contact, or he's been disconnected.
Chair Hutchinson, Stephen Townsend is currently having technical difficulties. He'll rejoin us as soon as he can.
Okay, well, we do have, for public record, we do have quorum, as there's still 4 members of the five-member committee. So we will continue, and if you could just let us know when he does rejoin, I'd appreciate that. We will move on to item number 7, and that's minor variance application number A16-2022, 313090, Highway 6, Township of Normanby. 7.1 is application number A16-2022, Gandier Ashley. 7.2 is Planner Spencer's report. If you could please read your minor variance report for A16-2022, including any written comments received for 7.3, which would include 7.3.1 Grey County, 7.3.2 Saugeen Valley Conservation, and any other correspondence or that you may have received up to today. Planner Spencer, please.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is that Committee of Adjustment receive the report from Planner Spencer for file A16-2022 Gandier, wherein the planner recommends approval of application A16-2022, as it is considered to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, is considered to be minor in nature, and is considered to be a desirable use of the land and buildings. The subject lands are municipally identified as 313090 Highway 6, north of the secondary settlement area of Verney. The property is legally identified as Concession 1, west of the Garifraxa Road, Part Division 2 and Part Division 3, Lot 2, within Registered Plan 17R2309, Part 2 in the geographic township of Normanby. The purpose of this application is to vary the provisions of section 9.2.4C to permit an interior side yard setback 0.7 meters, wherein 16 feet is required, the effect of which will permit the construction of a livestock facility on the subject lands. In addition, planning staff would like to classify that there is some additional detail with relation to this application with respect to the limitations for the ability for this particular structure to be located in other positions on the property. Although it does seem to be the intent of provision 9.2.4C to ensure sufficient buffering between adjacent properties, the applicant has provided a site plan depicting the placement of the accessory structure relative to the existing single detached dwelling unit and the interior side yard. There is a required side yard setback of 18 meters, but in this case it is warranted because of the natural environment zone to permit this to be a minor variance application in this process. Just another further note to provide to committee at this time: if the structure is being used for livestock purposes, there is a requirement for the applicant to be advised that they will need and be required to deal with a nutrient management strategy and plan, and that will be on the onus of the applicant and not through the municipality. Comments were received from the County of Grey in favor of the application, in addition to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, both which have expressed no concerns with the application at this time. Further comments were not provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. That will take us to 7.4, verbal comments. Again, we're going to go to the committee members, and that will be followed up by the public comments. 7.4.1, committee members, do you have any comments or questions at this time? And I will be looking for a raised hand, please. And just for the record, I see Member Townsend has rejoined us, so we're back to 5. And I see no comments or questions by the committee members, so we will move to 7.4.2. This is the public portion. Again, I'm going to ask Ms. Ferguson to please let the public know how they can speak to an application, opposed or in favor. Ms. Ferguson, please.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of 2 ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. After speaking, or if you raised your hand in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. You can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair Hutchinson, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you. And I too see no raised hands. And just for the record, We do constantly go back to asking how the public can participate, because we do have members of the public that join at different intervals throughout the meeting. And I think it's very important that we continue to provide the information how they can participate on each one. They may not be here for the first couple, but they could be followed in. So just wanted to make that record of that. So if anybody's wondering why we continue to go back to that, it's so that we are giving them ample opportunity to provide their comments. So just after that comment, I do want to go to 7.5, which is the decision by the committee. And I'll be looking for a raised hand, and I do see Member Robinson as the mover. You can go ahead, Member Robinson.
I will move the following, that the Committee of Adjustment hereby receives the report from Planner Spencer, A16.2022, Grander Ashley, and that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application A16.2022 for the reasons as set out in the planner's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Robinson. Could I get a seconder for that, please? Member Townsend, you'll be seconding that. Thank you. Comments or questions, or does anybody need the recommendation read back by Ms. Mulligan? If not, comments or questions? None? All those in favor, if you raise your hand. I see 5 members in favor, none opposed. This motion is also carried. Thank you. Planner Spencer, 7.6. What would be the next steps, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Notice of the decision of Committee of Adjustment to approve the application will be provided to the applicant, with notice provided to agencies as well. In addition, the 20-day appeal period will commence once that notice is provided, and provided no appeals are received, the applicant will be advised they can pursue their building permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Okay, moving right along here today. Item number 8 is minor variance application A17-2022, 615-703 Hamilton Lane, Township of Glen Elk. 8.1, application number A17-2022, Burns Jacqueline. And we're going to go to 8.2, Planner Spencer's report. Planner Spencer, if you could read your minor variance application report for A17-2022 and include any written comments that you may have received that are not posted on the agenda. Planner Spencer, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is that Committee of Adjustment receive the report from Planner Spencer for file A17-2022, being 615-703 Hamilton Lane, Burns, wherein the planner recommends approval of application A17-2022 as the application is considered to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, is considered to be minor in nature, and is considered to be a desirable use of the land and buildings. The subject lands are municipally identified as 615-703 Hamilton Lane within the municipality of West Grey. The lands are legally identified as Part Lot 104, Concession 3, southwest of the Toronto-Sydenham Road, Parts 1 and 2, within Plan 16R11730, within the geographic township of Glenelg. The purpose of this application is to vary the provisions of Section 10.2.3A of the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw to permit a reduced front yard setback of 10.7 meters, whereas a permitted minimum front yard setback is 20.0 meters, the effect of which will permit the demolition and reconstruction of an attached garage to the single detached dwelling unit. Comments have been provided from the County of Grey in support of the application, in addition to comments from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Of note, planning staff would like to remind that this application also is very similar to the previous one considered. There are some restricted areas on this property that would preclude the relocation of the structure to meet the minimum setback required of 20 meters. Planning staff have no concerns and are happy to elaborate further as committee requires. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. And I do see Member Townsend, he's not on my screen again, but probably more technical problems. Staff, can you confirm that, please?
Chair Hutchinson, I think Stephen Townsend is still experiencing technical difficulties, so I believe he has called into the meeting.
Okay, thank you. We do have quorum. Just wanted to make sure if he's going to participate. But if you could let us know when he rejoins on the phone, that would be great. But we are going to keep the meeting moving along here. So we're at 8.4, which is verbal comments. 8.4.1 is committee comments. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions at this time? If you could just raise your hand. I see no comments or questions from the committee members. Oh, I do see a raised hand on last three digits, 012. Would that be Member Townsend?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair.
You have a comment or question on this application or this part of it?
No, I just wanted to let you know I was here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And you're clear, Member Townsend, on how to participate through the phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay, as long as you have idea how that works, that's fine. So just so you're in the loop here, we've completed 8.4.1, which is the committee comments on this part of the application. Now we're going to 8.4.2, public comments. And again, Ms. Ferguson, I'm going to turn this over to you to explain to the public how they can participate.
Through you, Mr. Chair. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. After speaking, or if you have raised your hand in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. You can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair Hutchinson, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
And I would support that. I see no hands raised. Okay, so we will move on to 8.5, decision by the committee. What direction would the committee like to take with this application? And I do acknowledge Member Herger's hand raised by a second, or followed by Member Hutchinson. Member Herger, please.
That the Committee of Adjustments receives the report from Planner Spencer, and that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application MVA 17, 2020-22.
Thank you. Member Hutchinson is the second. Are you good with that?
Yes, a second.
Thank you. Does any of the committee members need that read by Ms. Mulligan, or are we good with everybody's clear on what we're voting on? Okay. Call the vote then. Everyone would want to, all those in favor, raise your hand. And Member Townsend, you can, I guess you can chime in, or you can raise your hand, whatever one works best for you.
In favor.
Okay. All 5 members are in favor, none opposed. That motion too has carried. We will go to 8.6. Planner Spencer, what are the next steps?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Upon decision of approval by the committee, notification will be provided to the applicant. In addition to authorities having jurisdiction, following the date of decision, there will be a 20-day appeal period. Provided no appeals are received, the applicant will be advised they can pursue their building permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, these reports are well written. We're already on to item number 9 here today. So, item number 9 is consent to sever application number B09-2022 and B10-2022, 234-330, concession 2 WGR, Township of Bentic. 9.1, application number B09-2022 and B10-2022, Elo Ronald. 9.2 is Planner Spencer's report. If you could please read your recommendation for consent to sever B09-2022 and B10-2022, and include in your comments under 9.3, 9.3.1 Hydro 1, and any other comments you may have received that are not posted. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is that committee receive Planner Spencer's report and approve applications B09 2022 and B10 2022 LO, subject to the following conditions: the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes as applicable, the payment of the zoning bylaw amendment application fee, payment and receipt of an entrance permit to the newly created parcels, approval of a zoning bylaw amendment, payment of the site plan application fee, approval and execution of a site plan agreement and registration on title at the expense of the owner for both of the newly created parcels, and payment of a parkland dedication fee for each newly created lot. The property is municipally identified as 234330 Concession 2 west of the Garifraxa Road and legally identified as lots 30 through 32, Concession 2 through 3 west of the Garifraxa Road in the geographic township of Bentic. The purpose of application B09 2022 is to sever approximately 0.8 hectares of vacant rural land and retain approximately 54.2 hectares of vacant rural land, the effect of which will create a new non-farm parcel. The purpose of application B10 2022 is very similar: to sever approximately 0.8 hectares of land, vacant rural land, and to retain approximately 53.6 hectares of vacant rural land, the effect of which as well will create a new non-farm rural parcel. A fulsome pre-consultation on the application was conducted with the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority and the SVCA, the County of Grey and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. It was pre-circulated in addition with the attachment of the environmental impact study, which has been conducted on the property. The site plan agreement component will introduce those recommendations from the environmental impact study and ensure that they are registered on title to identify the building envelopes associated with the property and to protect those interests of the natural heritage features that we know exist on the subject lands. Comments have been received in favor of the application from both the Conservation Authority and the County of Grey, in addition to comments from Hydro One. No comments at this point in time have been provided in opposition to the application. I'm happy to elaborate further as committee requires. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. 9.4 is our next item on the agenda. That's verbal comments. First part will be 9.4.1, committee members. Committee members, any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. I am going to move on to 9.4.2. Again, this is the portion where the public comments can come in. And I'm going to ask Ms. Ferguson to provide details on how the public can participate.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. After speaking, or if you raised your hand in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. You can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair Hutchinson, I am seeing a Nicholas Coleman and Christine Loft looking to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. I will go to Nicholas Coleman first. Please unmute and you can provide your comments, question or comment.
Yeah, I just wondering if there's any way to oppose this, just because I'm a local resident to this, and I just would like to see it left as natural environment.
Planner Spencer, do you have a response to that, please?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So once the Committee of Adjustment makes a decision on the application, everyone within 120 meters or anyone that has requested notice of the application, if approved and you wish to appeal, you have the right to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal within the first 20 days of the date of decision on the application. There is a requirement for a fee to be paid for the appeal. You would have to appeal both files B09 2022 in addition to B10 2022 and any associated files related to zoning components. You would have to file an appeal to that as well, all at one. There is the opportunity for that to occur once the committee has made their decision whether to approve or deny the application at this point in time. I would like to further reiterate, if I may, Mr. Chair, just to provide some further insight to maybe a potential concern Mr. Coleman may have.
Please do.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So the application itself is not removing that natural environment land. It is creating 2 lots outside of the natural environment land. Site plan approval has ensured that there are building envelopes for the 2 projected parcels that are being applied for here today. And those will be very restrictive in terms of what and where those certain structures are located. The environmental impact study was considered to be favorable by both the county, the municipality, and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority in support of the creation of those lots on the basis of the building envelopes established. I hope that gives you some reassurance. However, I'm happy to clarify further through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer, and I do appreciate the information you provided. Mr. Coleman, do you have any other questions or comments?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. I do see your virtual hand still up, so if you don't mind taking that.
Sorry, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. And I know next on the list is Ms. Loff. Ms. Loff, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through the chair to committee. I am here on behalf of the landowner, Mr. Elo. I think Ms. Spencer has provided a good overview, so I won't provide any more detailed comments. We have had an opportunity to review the conditions related to the consents and support those. And we also support the implementation of the recommendations within the environmental impact study, which Ms. Spencer has ensured to be brought forward. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loff. All right. Do we have any other members of the public wishing to speak with comments or questions in favor or opposed to the application? Ms. Ferguson, have you received anything? I see no hands on my screen, but from the public.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. So there are 2 members of the public who have used the no reaction, which is why you're seeing X's over their names. And I do know that from local resident, that's the user's name, that they oppose this action.
Well, just for clarity, I do have. Oh, okay. I see where they are. They're above the name. I'm sorry, because I'd seen one under Miss Loss, but I see it's above the name. Okay, so there's two there, but they have no comments or question. They're just raising an X. But I think Planner Spencer has provided details on the follow-up if they wish to do so. Seeing no other members from the public wishing to speak, I do see Member Hergert's hand up. Go ahead, Member Hergert.
Yes, Chair, I was curious if our planner could describe the holding provision that will be for the remainder of the property, and that might calm any environmental concerns as well, because there will be a holding provision. If our planner could go ahead and detail that, I would appreciate it, please.
Okay, Planner Spencer.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hergert, for that a very valid point. So the environmental impact study was very specific to the areas proposed for the 2 severances before committee today. The balance of the lands were not evaluated for building envelopes, and hence the recommendation to place a holding provision on the balance of the subject lands, the retained parcels, so to speak. So in essence, the holding provision will prevent further development from occurring on the site in the retained parcel if committee chooses to approve the 2 severances before them, until such time as a further environmental impact study is conducted and reviewed with respect to the county, the conservation authority, and the municipality itself, to ensure that there would not be any adverse implications toward the natural heritage features and obviously the wetland feature on the property. So the purpose of the holding provision will prevent any further development from happening on that property until such time that review has been conducted and found to be acceptable. Thank you.
Any follow-up, Member Herger? Okay, thank you. And I am going to double back to Ms. Ferguson. Could you just confirm that we have invited all public members that wish to speak to this? Again, opposed or in favor? Just wanted to double check that before I move on to 9.5.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. There are no additional members of the public waiting to speak, but there are 3 members of the public who have noted their that they disagree with this through the reaction button on Zoom. And local resident has asked me to note for the record that he opposes this.
Okay, thank you. And I think Planner Spencer's outlined a detailed formula for follow-through or follow-up on the matter. And again, Planner Spencer, the office is always available to answer questions. So we are going to move on to 9.5, and that's the decision by the committee. What direction would the committee like to take with this application? We're looking for a mover and a seconder. And I will acknowledge Member Hutchinson's hand raised. Go ahead, Member Hutchinson.
Yeah, if I could just make a comment first before I make a recommendation, Chair. I do think that the landowner has gone through the proper channels to try to prevent conditions, that would destroy more trees or create environmental hazards. I think the environmental impact study and the holding symbol will make it that, potentially there could be a house in that area, but going through all the steps to make sure that they don't do any more damage than necessary. So I think the property owner has done due diligence, and I'd like to make a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment receives Planner Spencer's report, B09 2022 and B10 2022. Elo, Ronald, and the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves applications B09 2022 and B10 2022 for the reasons of the conditions set out in the planner's report.
Thank you, Member Hutchinson. I will be looking for a seconder with a raised hand. Member Hergert, you'll be seconding that. Is everybody clear on the recommendation as outlined by Member Hutchinson, or would you like it reread? Okay, seeing no members needing it reread, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, if you could raise your hand, please. I see 4 hands are raised that are in favor. Have we lost Member Townsend again? I don't see him on the line. 012.
No, I'm here and I'm going to vote in favor.
Okay, I apologize. There you are. I apologize. You moved on my screen. So we have 5 members in favor, none opposed. This motion has carried. If I could just ask or I'll go to 6.6, or I apologize, 9.6 for Planner Spencer's next steps, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So upon the approval of this decision by the Committee of Adjustments, the applicant will be identified in addition to commenting agencies and authorities having jurisdiction, will be notified of the positive decision of the application, provided no appeals are received within the 20 days from the date of decision. The applicant will be advised they can pursue their building permits in addition to proceeding to follow the recommendations. Sorry, let me retract there. I apologize. I misspoke. So I will advise the applicant that they have received provisional approval within the 20-day appeal period, provided no appeals are received. They will have to satisfy the conditions as outlined in the report, which basically entails the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes as required, payment of the zoning bylaw amendment application fee, payment and receipt of an entrance permit, the newly created parcels, the approval of a zoning bylaw amendment.
You're on mute, Planner Spencer. We lost you.
My apologies. I'll repeat the conditions, and they're subject to the following conditions for both files B09-2022 and B10-2022. Be the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, the payment of the zoning bylaw amendment application fee, payment and receipt of an entrance permit to each of the newly created parcels, the approval of a zoning bylaw amendment, payment of the site plan application fee, approval and execution of a site plan agreement with registration on title at the expense of the owner for both the newly created parcels, which will entail the recommendations of the environmental impact study, the payment of a parkland dedication fee for each newly created parcel. Once those conditions are fulfilled, there is a 12-month time period from the date of decision for which the applicant is responsible for satisfying those conditions. Following that, they will require a survey for each of the properties, payment of the fee to stamp the deeds and draft deeds to be approved by the municipality. Provided no appeals are received, that is the recommendation at this point in time, and then move forward for the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Okay, before we move on to item 10, if I could ask members of the public to please clear your dashboards so we don't have any X's or check marks or hands, whatever you may have up, please. Appreciate that. I still see one Thank you, I appreciate that. Just so I have clarity on what we're talking about for the next one and nobody needs to speak to it. So that will move us on to item number 10 on today's agenda, consent to sever application number B13, 2022, 324, 166 The Glen Road, Township of Glen Elg. 10.1 is application number B13, 2022, MacArthur Ken. And take us to 10.2, Planner Spencer's report. We read your report for consent to sever application B13, 2022, including written comments received under 10.3, and I show 3 items: 10.3.1 Grey County, 10.3.2 Saugeen Valley Conservation, 10.3.3, which is Hydro 1, and any other correspondence you may have received. Planner Spencer, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is that committee receive Planner Spencer's report and approve application B13, 2022 MacArthur, which would be subject to the following recommended conditions: the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, the payment of an entrance permit application, the receipt of an entrance permit to the newly created parcel, the provision of a road widening to the satisfaction of the County of Grey, and finally payment of the $500 parkland dedication fee for the newly created lot. The property is municipally identified as through 324166 The Glen Road and legally identified as part lots 26 through 30, concession 1 south of the Durham Road in the geographic township of Glen Elg. The purpose of the application is to sever one parcel, approximately 36.5 hectares in size of vacant rural land, and retain approximately 27.0 hectares of land with a single detached dwelling unit and accessory structures, the effect of which will create a new vacant rural parcel with the original Crown survey of lots 29 to 30, concession 1 south of the Durham Road. Comments have been provided from the County of Grey Planning and Development Department, the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and Hydro 1, all of which have not demonstrated any concern with the application at this time. The conditions related to the road widening will need to be satisfied through the County of Grey with the applicant and or an agent on their behalf directly. I'm happy to elaborate further as required by committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. That takes us to 10.4, verbal comments. Again, 2 parts to this portion of the meeting. One is for the committee members to speak, and that'll be followed up by members of the public. 10.4.1, committee members. Any comments or questions from the committee members at this time? And I do see 3 members. I'm going to start with Member Townsend on the phone, and that'll follow with Member Hutchison, and then over to Member Hergert. Member Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question has to do with the widening of the road and whether or not there'll be any cost to West Grey.
Planner Spencer.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, the road widening will be taken on the county road. So there is no expense to the municipality locally. There may be an expense to the landowner to provide a survey to that effect of the road widening. That will be a discussion that will be held directly between themselves and the County of Grey with respect to what that road widening incurs and entails and their costs directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Any follow-up, Member Townsend?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just so you know, your virtual hand's still up. I appreciate that, taking that down. Now, Member Hutchison, go ahead, please.
Yeah, my question sort of is similar to what Councillor or Member Townsend had mentioned, but I just don't see it here. It talks about the roading related to the county road, but the road that I thought they suggest that the applicant needs to bring an entrance off the Glen Road, which would be a municipal road rather than a county road. So I'm a little confused on why they're asked to widen the county road when they're not actually having an entrance on the county road.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, it's not that the entrances are along the county road. What they're asking for is the provision of a road widening in the event that road, the county road, is identified as a future expansion for improvement at the county perspective. This is a common practice when severance is requested. Often road widenings along county roads are requested for that sole future purpose of the intention for that road to be upgraded and that widening to be taken in order to facilitate that development going going forward. You are correct. The entrances will not be off the county road. And in fact, the County of Grey has requested that they be from the municipal road, being the Glen Road. The road widening is a component of the request for a severance. And again, that would be a discussion between the applicant and the County of Grey itself, which will not involve municipal conversation because it is a county road and that's their authority. Thank you.
Right. So I presume this revolves around the fact that they might try to straighten the road at some point as it comes towards the highway. I presume that's what it's all about. I'm not sure. Thank you.
Anything further, Member Hutchinson?
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Member Herder, go ahead, please.
Okay, so my question relates more to the extractive industrial, the aggregate. How is it determined whether or not that area should be left alone or prepared for future aggregate extraction? How is that determined, please?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. If I understand the question correctly, you're wondering whether or not the adjacent lands to the west are going to continue to be used for extractive purposes. And if that is the case, it is a licensed aggregate operation. That, you know, the components and the extent of that is up to the individual license operator and how much they take from that. They, through the ministry, have their own plan with respect to rehabilitation when that aggregate resource is exhausted. There is a limitation in the ability to create farm lots within proximity of identified aggregate resources in addition to identified aggregate operations. And this application in hand before Committee of Adjustment is meeting those minimum lot size requirements. So in the rural setting, if there is identified aggregate adjacent to you, the minimum lot size is 50 acres under the County of Grey official plan. So this has been met under this application. The approval of the adjacent lands for the extractive component is related to their ministry approval, when that was received and what that rehabilitation will look like. But a part of that approval is the rehabilitation of those lands once the aggregate resource is exhausted. I'm happy to elaborate further if I haven't answered your questions. Thank you.
Follow up, Member Herder.
If I just could, is there any extraction of minerals like aggregate right now on the subject property?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, to my knowledge, no, there is not. So I know the mapping is somewhat alluding to that effect through the licensed area, but to my knowledge, no, this is not an extractive operation. However, there is the ability for a landowner to conduct under the building code. They are allowed to change the grades on their property, but there is no extractive operation associated with the title to this property, to my knowledge, at this point in time. Thank you.
Okay, and just one last question then. It says planning staff are of the opinion that the boundary of the M4 zone is not accurately depicted and requires a mapping correction in future as part of the zoning bylaw amendment update. And so I'm just kind of curious, where are we getting that mapping? That's Grey County's aggregate mapping?
So if I may, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So through you, Mr. Chair, so what the mapping associated with is the Grey County GIS site, and that is where the zoning is conducted and our mapping is conducted through the County of Grey. Not everything is accurate 100% all of the time, so I do believe that overlap between the two properties is inaccurate and will be corrected through a housekeeping amendment when we amend our zoning bylaw. It happens. Sometimes the natural environment zone doesn't match up with the actual natural environment boundaries. So we always consistently need to look at those housekeeping amendments and make sure that they're tidied up going forward. But you're never going to be 100% all the time because it is a very broad municipality and not everything's going to be 100% accurate. But that it does come from the municipality through the County of Grey and the GIS system.
Okay, anything further, Member Herder? No? Any other committee members have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to move on to 10.4.2, public comments. And again, I'm going to go to Ms. Ferguson. If you could please provide comments on how the public can participate in this portion of the meeting. Ms. Ferguson, please.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. After speaking, or if you raised your hand in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat to me, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. You can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon. And at this time, Chair Hutchinson, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Ferguson. I too would confirm that. I see no raised hands on my screen. Okay, then we are going to move on to 10.5, and that's the decision by the committee. What direction would the committee like to take with this application? I do see Member Herder's hand up. Go ahead, please.
The Committee of Adjustments receives Planner Spencer's report B13 2022 MacArthur, and that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves application B13 2022 MacArthur for the reasons and with the conditions set out in the planner's report.
Okay, thank you, Member Herder. Can I get a seconder, please? Member Hutchinson, you'll be seconding that. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody need the recommendation reread that Member Herder has just, I believe, clearly stated? Okay, then we'll call the vote. All members in favor, you can raise your hand. And those on phone, if you could just let us know which way you're voting on this.
Mr. Chair, Member Townsend, I vote in favor.
Thank you. That is all 5 members are in favor, none opposed. This motion is carried. Takes us to item 10.6. Planner Spencer, what are the next steps, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So upon the approval of this application for provisional consent, the applicant will be notified that they are required to pay any outstanding municipal taxes as applicable, the payment of an entrance permit application for the newly created lot, the receipt of an entrance permit to the newly created parcel, the provision of a road widening to the satisfaction of the County of Grey, and finally the payment of the $500 parkland dedication fee for the newly created lot. These conditions must be fulfilled within 12 months from the date of decision and will be advised to the applicant of same. Following that, a survey will be required potentially for the delineation of the new lot. There is potential that a survey is not required. Regardless, there will be a requirement for deeds to be approved by the municipality and the payment of the fee to stamp and review those deeds. Planning staff are happy to clarify further, but the applicant will be notified once the decision has been provided and signed. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. That takes us to item number 11, next meeting, and I have that as scheduled for Monday, October 3rd, 2022 at 1 p.m. And again, that will be done virtually. Moving on to item number 12 is adjournment, but before we go there, I just want to say thank you very much to the planning department because this was a detailed, this was a rather heavy agenda. We did roll through it. There's a lot of information that was here. And the committee members, obviously, you were well prepared walking into this meeting because we did get through it. And it's not a matter, it's not a race, but we certainly conducted our business here in a timely fashion. So I appreciate that. Item number 12 is adjournment. So I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn, please. And I do see Member Robertson's hand up. And I'd be looking for a seconder. That would be Member Herder. And Ms. Mulligan, if I could please get you to read the recommendation for adjournment, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Hutchinson. The recommendation that Committee of Adjustment hereby adjourns this meeting at 2:03 p.m.
Thank you. Everyone's clear on that. If I could just see a raise of hands, call the vote to adjourn. See 4. Member Townsend?
In favor.
That's all 5 members are in favor. That motion is carried.